Well, hello, and welcome to Pizza Steve TV. In today's episode of The Studio, I'm going to take you along the process of creating a t-shirt design using the Adobe Illustrator program. Now for this t-shirt, the person I'm creating for is really into mushrooms, so we're going to create some cartoon mushrooms, just having a good old time chilling on the ground with the mycelium underneath. So join me for the process and enjoy this episode of The Studio. So the first thing I do is I go on his Instagram at Macaroni and Shrooms and I get some inspiration. So I sketch out a few little mushrooms and draw some happy faces on them on pen and paper. Now what I'm doing is I'm getting the basic shape of the ground, and I'm going to go ahead and start outlining each shape for the mushroom. Now I'm drawing a different shape, one for the stem and one for the head of the mushroom, and you'll see once I start to color it in how it's going to take place. Using the pencil tool, which is one of my favorite drawing tools in Adobe Illustrator, because you can draw your lines just how you would freehand, and then you can also use the same line that you just drew to redraw without losing all your information. So I go ahead and reshape these so I can fit 4 on each side, and I start to draw my other 8 groups of mushrooms on the other side. I got some short and a tall one, then I have this little group of ladies that are hanging out and laughing. You'll get to see that once I draw their faces, and I'm just basically getting the rough outline of everything. So now I'm gonna go ahead and shrink down the circle so I can get everyone a little closer together basically, and I'm resizing everything so it kind of fits and goes along the shape. So now we're gonna start to color. We're gonna start to fill everything in with the coloring, and you'll see how the lines disappear and the shapes take hold and nothing overlaps, and you have your stems behind the head of the mushrooms, and everything else is pretty self-explanatory. We're just filling in the color. So now I'm going to go ahead and start giving some details to each one of these mushrooms, and you'll see where I got after this part, and then you could see that everything has a little bit more detail in it, and I'm just moving everything so that it fits and they're together. And the next step, I'm going to go ahead and start drawing the faces. This is the fun part. Now I'm using the paintbrush tool to paint the faces. I really enjoy filling everything in. It takes me back to the Microsoft Paint days. I'm just giving happy faces to all the mushrooms. Everyone's got a different personality, and you can tell that once the face comes along. And I'm using my sketches that I drew as inspiration for these different faces. You know, these are the girl mushrooms with their eyelashes. I like these guys with their little eyes and big eyebrows. This guy's got a lot of personality too. So I'm going to go ahead and get the dirt in there, and then I'm going to draw the sphere that everything is going to be contained in, so you can see the top of the ground and the underground along with the sky. Here comes the mycelium. I'm using a different type of paintbrush, so I have a thicker beginning and a thin end to each line, so that it kind of gives it a natural growth look. Now the mycelium is what the mushroom is, but it's most of the mushroom that's underground that most of us can't see. and that's a communication network between the mushrooms and all the plant life. And that's a very important part of this shirt, I think. I'm gonna go ahead and start drawing some grass. I needed to get a thinner paintbrush, so I started getting that. Started out thick at the beginning and thin at the end was the paintbrush design, and it gives it a nice looking grass look. And then I realized that all those red dots on this mushroom makes it look really sick, so I try to figure out a way to do it. So I try a few different methods and still looks sick. So ultimately I went without the red dots on that guy. So I just matted everything within the circle, and then I realized that I wasn't done yet, so I unmatted it. Unmasked it. That's what I meant. Masking. It's the process of containing an image within another image. And it basically does a cookie cutter process on anything outside of that circle. Cuts it out of the picture, and everything within the circle stays. Give them the clouds, giving them some definition, and I think ultimately I went without giving the clouds any definition because it just was simple enough with the background image. And I think this guy needs some glasses, so I will go ahead and give him some frames. And once I realized that he looks cooler with the glasses, so now I'm going to start drawing some mushrooms to party in the middle. So these are just going to be white mushrooms without any faces to kind of fill in some space, and then also give us some content in the center of the party. And I do the same thing with the pencil tool. I draw and redraw my shapes until I get them where I want. You're going to see a lot of overlapping right here, but once I start coloring it in, I can move everything around and bring things forward and move things back. And once the shading's in place, you'll see how it comes out. This is just a rough part. And now I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start filling in the outer edges and resizing everything. Try to fill in that space. Make things a little bit bigger, and then I realize that I'm going to have to draw a little more on the outside to kind of fill in that extra space. And you can tell the direction of these mushrooms, the way they grow, they're constantly trying to reach for the sun. And I do a little bit of multitasking right here and get all my shading in together with the same pieces that are going to be the same color. Now this is more like the finished product. It could be a t-shirt or a sticker.
Thank you guys very much. I'm Pizza Steve. Always eat your crust. Good night.